Hello there, and glad you're joining us again today on Dr. Teach Me to Parent. We have a very special program today. We're meeting here today with Christy Burkhart, Executive Director of the Pregnancy Care Center here in Fresno. So we're going to walk through some real experiences that you've had personally and the experiences you have with the group of people you work with in crisis pregnancy situations of young and old and all ages, I'm sure, right? So we'll take a look at that together as we kind of walk through this whole issue of parenting under very difficult, stressful circumstances, right?
For sure.
And for sure that's the case. But before we start, let me give you a little quote for the day and just kind of put this in perspective as to how we're going to kind of focus our attention today. Here's the quote. The tragedy of our time is that many become parents before they cease being children. And that's the case in so many of the people you work with. They're already now prospective or their parents, yet they're still children.
Yes, that's true.
That must be heart-wrenching for you personally.
It is. It is.
How do you handle that? How do you personally kind of deal with people who are in crisis? I mean, usually it's a pregnancy or something related to that. But how do you deal with people in crisis yourself?
Personally, I think that just knowing that knowing that they're maybe not ready to parent,
yes,
and they're so young and they don't have the support that they need, and they don't have the upbringing that maybe helped them to make good decisions.
Sure. And you're the support system.
We become the support system. Yeah. And just knowing that, man, there's only so much that you can do for them. And so just knowing that I care about them, but the Lord loves them. The Lord really loves them, and He wants to intervene in their life. So you try to
put that in perspective.
Yes, and to just trust that, we don't make people, we don't change people, that we don't make decisions for people, we don't save people. And so allowing us to step in, but
so you're not telling them what to do under a crisis situation. You're leading them through options, I assume, and
for sure,
and various steps that have to be taken to make a decision.
That's right. That's right.
Who's Christy?
Who's Christy?
Christy? Here you are. You're the director of the Pregnancy Care Center.
Yes.
And you have come from a background of working in this field, I think, before you became the executive director.
Yes. So I started as a volunteer at Pregnancy Care Center in 2000. So I've been with the organization.
So why do you have interest in this? So does this come out of your personal family history?
It did.
It's an interest that kind of generated. Tell us that story.
Did. I feel like you might know. But yes, so I actually am adopted.
I see.
And I was a birth placement adoption. So in 1966, my mom made a decision to place me in another home.
Oh, yeah.
I was born in Arizona on a Saturday morning in 1966. So, that was a different era then.
Different time. That's right. That's right.
And by Sunday night, so I was not even quite 48 hours old, I was in Dinuba with my mom and dad. And I was placed in a faithful Christian home, a home that loved and nurtured me, and just was able to see God's hand in my own life from the very beginning, because of just that process of being picked up out of Arizona and placed in Dinuba.
There's a whole new family and a whole new circumstance. Yeah. We often refer to these families that kind of take children like you in as kind of the forever family.
Right.
Not the natural birth family, but they become the forever family.
Yes.
And again, that was your circumstance.
That was my circumstance. And I think my upbringing lent me to really recognize the sanctity of life, of human life, and understanding that I could be anywhere and I could be under any kind of circumstance.
It's interesting how our own personal experiences kind of create a mindset.
That's right.
A value system, a kind of way of looking at life, looking at circumstances in life.
And understanding, too, that, my birth mom, of course, was in a crisis pregnancy.
Sure.
And the decisions that she made must have been very difficult decisions. And I really don't know the circumstances of her pregnancy. I don't know if she was dating my birth dad, or if that was a one-time thing, or maybe something that there was violence involved. I really have no idea.
Do you care? Do you really want to know? Do you really care? Is that important? That's an interesting question.
As I get older, it is an interesting question. It is that I have. It's an interesting question for me.
Yeah. But do you really have to have an answer?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
You can live without the answer.
I totally can. In fact, until recently, until maybe the last 10 years, people would encourage me to find my birth family. And I didn't, I thought, well, why? I have a family.
Sure.
I have a wonderful mom and dad that I'm very bonded to and connected to.
Sure.
I only need one mom and dad, so it didn't make sense to me to even do a search.
Sure.
As I've gotten older, it's more the reaching out and saying thank you and sharing my faith potentially with my birth family.
I see.
That creates
So there's a different
an interest.
reason to reach out to them now
Right.
than maybe 10 years ago or whatever. But so you did reach out to your birth?
I have done some looking for them.
I see.
But
no connection yet.
No connection.
But you've just kind of been open or aware
That's
to
right.
this. I see.
Yes, that's
You know,
true.
I've met with a lot of families that raise that question: should we do this or should we not do this? And that's an individual thing.
That's right.
It's not an answer. Yes, you should, or no, you shouldn't. But you know, the majority of the people that I have walked through in this issue have had excellent experiences. They've had bonding experiences. It's been wholesome. It's been healing. It's been helpful. The majority of them, I'd say 75%.
That's wonderful
So I mean,
to know.
it's generally been a good thing to do, to kind of reach out. But again, that doesn't necessarily say that what you should do, right?
Right. No, that's right.
I wouldn't advise you necessarily.
No, I'm not taking it that way. It's just something that you have to believe, you have to sense that the timing is right and that God's leading you to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So have you always maintained an interest then in this kind of field of crisis pregnancy and crisis living? And
I think I have. And yes, I can't say that, in my 20s and early 30s that I was looking for an opportunity to serve in this area. But I remember seeing an advertisement to become a volunteer in my church bulletin.
Yeah.
And that sparked an interest. And circling that and then connecting with the ministry and then what I kind of describe it to other people as is that there was this coal in my heart that needed to be fanned into a flame. And I didn't recognize the coal at first.
Sure.
But it definitely has been fanned. And it really is about the men and women that, to serve the men and women that are in an unexpected pregnancy and to make a difference for the sanctity of life.
I'm wondering if you've even become better at it just because of your own personal experience. There's this idea that we want people in our life that have gone through similar experiences that we've gone through. We seem to bond to them. We seem to seek them out. We talk with them. We befriend. And we look for people who have experienced what we've experienced, or what we're going through. And that's the kind of person we want to talk to because they seem to know.
Right.
They seem to understand. They seem to feel what I'm feeling.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, because of your experience, in the adoption process and all that you went through, if that makes you even more available and maybe more open and maybe more receptive to other people.
I'm sure that it does. I'm sure that it does. And Dr. Hedberg, I could say that my own adoption is the foundation of that, but my whole life has lent itself to this ministry. I have had more experiences in this area than I really ever meant to have. In other words, Chris, my husband, and I experienced an unexpected pregnancy before we were married. Terminating that pregnancy never actually entered my mind. And we had been dating for a number of years and we were really ready to get married but hadn't taken those steps. And so we experienced that ourselves. I had a close friend, a childhood friend, who chose to terminate a pregnancy and then really struggled with that decision.
Sure.
And later in life, we lost her to suicide. And we know that that was a piece of that story. It wasn't the whole story, but it was a piece of that story. And I would say that
it impacts you greatly, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
That has a huge impact on you.
Well, and she was not just a close friend. She was like family. And
I see. Even more so.
Yeah. That I was the one who needed to send the police to find her, and I was the one that needed to be a part of that family situation. Yeah. So there's... and
you
then,
never forget that.
No. And so this area, my life, my personal life has been touched by this area of unexpected pregnancy and life in the womb. over and over and over.
You're
And
natural. If somebody has a situation like that, that looking for somebody to talk to, looking for somebody to tell their story, looking for somebody to listen to their story, you're it.
Well, and you know, I'm not in the advocate room or in the client room all the time anymore. But one of the things that I can bring to the ministry is training those that are. So I can, as executive director, I'm in charge of the programs, I'm in charge of the fundraising, I'm in charge of many things. But making sure that my staff has those perspectives is probably one of the most important part of my job.
Yeah. So as the Pregnancy Care Center serves as the community, I gather you're open. I don't know. Are you open 24 hours a day? Are you open at certain hours? Can people come when they have a crisis? Doesn't come at noon.
No, it doesn't.
And it doesn't come before 5 o'clock.
Right.
It comes at odd hours, and it often comes in the middle of the night.
Right.
When you now maybe have the crisis, or certainly relive it and feel it.
Right.
So how do you deal with people in crisis when it's a 24-hour deal?
Right. So our office is open 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. We have a north satellite. So our main office is right here in the Tower District in Fresno, but our north satellite is at Maple and Herndon, and we also have a mobile clinic that parks at different areas of town where there's the underserved. And so we are available during the week, and on Saturdays here in the Tower District we're also open. But when you call or text our hotline, our number, then when we're not open, that will go to a national hotline, and they can talk you through where you're at,
so
and help you get connected.
You have
to
this
us
extended program basically, so you really are available 24 hours a day.
So on our texting line, our personal texting line, we close down from 10 to 6 a.m. But again, they could still. So at 6 a.m. and they'll get a response back that we'll get back to you in the morning. And so, we try to be available all the time, but it's not quite 24 hours for us personally.
I get the feeling at times that there are people who want to talk on a talk line. They don't want to talk to a person.
That's right.
They're in crisis. They're embarrassed. They're shameful.
Right.
They're experiencing a very difficult event. And to talk to somebody face to face is sometimes difficult.
That's right.
For people to do. They want to call after hours because they know they'll get somebody on the phone.
Right.
And that's what they want. Is that true? I mean, do you find that to be true?
I wouldn't say that I thought about that because, you're the psychologist.
Well, you think about that.
yes. But I do think that's true. And I think that particularly in our day and age, that's why the texting has become such
I think it has
mode of communication.
That's right.
And so that's also why
we want to communicate, but we don't want to talk person to person.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
it's the listening ear
anonymous.
that we want. It's the listening ear.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea, I think.
Right. And we can stay a little bit more anonymous when we're texting.
That's what people.
And we can put out questions that maybe we wouldn't put out there.
Sure.
Over the phone or in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're available basically during work hours.
Yes.
As we think about it, on an open basis, person to person basis. And then on a 24-hour basis, you have this extended service through the phone.
Right.
And they have available at any time.
And both of those, both the hotline and the texting line can make appointments for you during the day at our center.
So you can follow up the next day or whatever.
If you get to that point where you're ready to make an appointment, then they can help you with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's really what a crisis is. You have to kind of be available when the crisis is hot.
That's right.
And it may have happened a day or two or three before, but now I'm ready to talk.
Yes, yes.
And that's what you have to have.
Or ready to get answers, because a lot of times they're not sure really if they're pregnant or not, and the crisis is this idea that, oh my goodness, all of a sudden I realize I have symptoms or I've missed my period, and so what if I'm pregnant? And so then making that appointment is that step to find out if that crisis is real or if it's perceived.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. Good point to take a break. When we come back here, what I want you to do, I want you to kind of tell us maybe the 4 or 5 main services that you provide to our community.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just to the crisis pregnancy person,
right,
but to their family and to our community generally speaking. So maybe you can give us a kind of overview of kind of the Pregnancy Care Center's main
services
purpose in our particular community.
We'll do that.
Okay, get a cup of coffee and join us in a couple of minutes, okay?
The Green Gables Care Home is a 24-hour assisted living facility for the elderly located in Clovis, California, offering spacious private and semi-private rooms which are wheelchair approved, catering to the special person in your life who needs attention and wants to live in a loving home environment. The Green Gables Care Home has assisted living in secured homes for elderly with Alzheimer's, memory loss, and for your loved ones needing assistance with their activities of daily living. Call 559-297-9438 and visit greengablescarehome.com.
Sometimes good intentions hurt rather than help. For just $1.76 per meal, the Fresno Rescue Mission offers more than food. We offer hope. Please donate today.
Do you need a locksmith? Layman's Lock and Safe Service and Repair is available for you. 559-228-1805.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son, Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010, and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Choosing a Medicare plan can be difficult and frustrating. Susan Hatch can guide you through the Medicare maze and help find the right plan for you. Susan helps people understand the confusing and drastic changes that occur every year in Medicare. Susan will only recommend plans that will protect your assets and allow you to continue to see your personal doctor. As a 100% independent agent, Susan is not controlled by any particular insurance company to steer a person onto any one particular plan. Susan was awarded the #1 Medicare supplement agent in California. Look for Susan's Medicare question and answers every Monday in the Fresno Bee. Call Susan at 559-307-2287 and visit MedicareToday.net.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, welcome back, and we're talking today with Christy Burkhardt of the Pregnancy Care Center here in Fresno, and she's been telling a little bit about her own personal experience being an adopted child and going through that whole experience, and now working full-time as the director of the Pregnancy Care Center and working with people who are in a variety of crises related to pregnancies, and young, old. What's the range?
Childbearing age. So we have served very, very young girls, as young as 12 years old. That is not common. That doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened. And we have run pregnancy tests on women in their 50s and 60s. Again, not common. Our highest group is the 20-year-olds. Our next highest group is the teenagers. Mm-hmm. So
what service do you provide these people?
Right.
So we have, that's our age range.
Right.
Let's say it's 15 to 60.
Yes, yes.
Primarily. So what do you serve them? I mean, how do you provide a service? What's the service that's needed?
Right. So when our clients walk in the door, because we are a licensed medical clinic,
Yes.
so we are actually a clinic, then we have them fill out an intake form like you would at any doctor's office. And the first thing they do is provide a urine sample for a pregnancy test, unless they're coming in knowing that they're pregnant and they're needing resources. Then that would be a different kind of client. But our pregnancy test client is the main client that walks in the door.
So mainly that's the starting point.
Right.
Am I pregnant or not?
Right. That's right.
And then you go from there.
And then we go from there. So that client, once they leave a urine test sample, then our advocate, who is trained, very key trained, to go over pregnancy options and education with them, will take them into an advocate room and find out how, if you, who knows that you're here today? Who knows that you might be pregnant? What kind of support system do you have? How are you feeling about it if you find out you're pregnant today? Asking really good questions to determine where that young woman is or older woman. And then from there, be able to resource and educate her. So let's go over fetal development. Let's go over what parenting might look like for you. What makes adoption easy or hard for you to understand or think about or consider? Would you like to know more about termination?
That's where the crisis is addressed.
Right. That's where the crisis
because
is
the
addressed.
crisis is not in being pregnant. The crisis is in, what do I do about this
Right.
now? Wow.
Right.
Now that's where the crisis is.
That's right.
And somebody needs to address that particular issue.
Right.
What do I do? Who knows? What do I do? How do I tell people? What are the resources?
Right.
What's my support system?
Right. And if they can think through some of those things before they get the test results,
Yes.
then that, one, can help them alleviate some of their fear and concerns. And two, if they find out they're not pregnant, then that can help them think through, how do I want to prevent this from
That's right.
happening?
Don't want to be
if
back in the situation again.
If I do find myself pregnant, I've already thought through what that could look like. So it really is, it's help in that moment, and it's also preventative. So then the nurse will come in and give them the results of that test. If the tests are negative, then we just continue to give them resources and education about lifestyle and healthy living and healthy relationships. If the test is positive, then we're going to get her resource to, we can offer her a free ultrasound. We can get her resource to a good doctor to get established with, resources for parenting classes and pregnancy classes.
Let me ask you that. Do most people that come in have resources, or are they short?
They're short
of resources. They don't have a physician. They don't have a family support system, or what. I mean, would that be true of most, or is that just a rare?
So there's a couple questions in there. So the first question is, do most people have a support system? I would say that when we're talking with them, we can help them identify. Most people have one or two people in their life that are good support.
That could be a support.
They may not have a bounty of support system, but they might have a sister or an aunt or a grandma. Maybe maybe their parents are good support, or one parent or the other. But even if it's not their parents, we can kind of help them broaden their idea of, so who is in your support system?
I see.
Maybe it's their boyfriend, maybe it isn't their boyfriend or
That's
husband.
right. Not necessarily.
Right,
Not
right.
necessarily.
So help them to identify where is your support. As far as resources, I was looking at our statistics yesterday and looked at our income level of our clients, and 70% of them earn less than $30,000 a year. Let me look at my
70% would be poverty line,
right,
and below.
Right. And it was 47% of our clients earn less than $14,000 a year.
Yeah.
So almost half of our clients are below 15 grand a year.
Yeah.
So that kind of speaks to that. What about their resources? Their resources are really limited.
Very limited.
So us being able to come in and help them with education, and then having them earn points while they're taking all of the education classes, and then they can earn a free car seat, or they can earn mommy money or daddy dollars to spend in our baby boutique and get items for their baby's clothes, diapers, wipes. Sometimes we have changing tables and toys and walkers and bassinets.
So you have a program that a gal would participate in, get points.
Yes.
And then use those are dollars, basically.
Yes.
Baby dollars,
Yes.
what do you call them? And then they use that to buy
whatever it is that they
the needs.
Yes. So, and if they take 15 classes, any 15 classes, they earn a full-size car seat. So that
And your staff
helps them.
teaches those classes?
Our staff and
They don't have to
volunteers.
go somewhere for that.
Right.
That's right in your
That's right in our
facility.
facility.
I see.
Yes. So, that advocate sitting with her and or him, because we also have male advocates that can meet the needs of our guys and kind of go over some of the same information with our guys. And we do have the male advocates meet with the guys and the female advocates meet with the girls. But when she's ready to get her pregnancy test read and
Yes.
have the nurse come in,
Yeah.
then she's able to say, hey, I want my boyfriend or husband to be in here for the results. So then, of course, we get them together. Because we are a licensed medical facility, then we're under HIPAA compliancy, and we have to
The
deal
privacy
with her.
issue has to
Right.
be considered.
Right. So until
Yeah.
she responds that she wants him in there, then we have to not assume that she
Sure.
wants him in there.
That's right.
But all of that is a huge help to them in just thinking through where they're at, what they want. For the guys, that he has a voice in this potential unexpected pregnancy. And to speak into that, to let her know, I'd like to parent this child. I'd like to support you in this. So
Finding out that you're pregnant, is that a make or break issue for a guy and a gal, not married, but does this bring them together and kind of force the question of marriage, or do they just basically go on living like they've been living? I mean, is it a point of decision?
I would say in our current climate, it is not a determining factor.
It's not.
No, I would say that it does lend itself to, we want to see if we can make this relationship work, and there is added commitment. But in our climate, I wouldn't say that most people say, "Oh, let's go out and get married now." I would say that they'll say, let's move in together. We want to parent together, or maybe they're already living together, and so it's. But I would say that there's added commitment to their relationship, but not necessarily.
There's no one
much.
answer to that.
Yeah, there
question.
isn't.
Or what you're saying.
It's as
It's an individual issue.
complicated.
It's an individual
Yes.
issue. You have to know the people.
Yes.
And you have to spend time with them, and then help them think through their choices.
Right. And we know that not all people should be married. Right? Not all relationships are healthy. They're not
That's
all
right.
people are healthy.
That's right.
And so just because there's a pregnancy doesn't mean there should be
You
a
don't
marriage.
add a bad situation to another situation.
Right. So my dad used
Yeah.
to tell me 2 wrongs don't make a right. Right?
Well, it kind of fits in this situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And I think that's where also our classes come in, right? Because if they want to take some relationship classes and really look at who they are and whether this is a good idea for them, because we're not going to tell them whether they should or shouldn't get married.
I find myself in that same situation when I do marriage counseling.
Right.
People ask me, do you tell people to divorce or not divorce? That's not my answer. It's not
Right.
my issue.
Right.
I don't have to answer that question.
That's right.
I lead people to answer that question for themselves.
That's
and
right.
I guess that's the same situation you find yourself.
Right.
Is that you have to bring them to the point where they can make an informed and a choice that they can live with.
Well, that's right. And not only that, is that my values and standards, according to my upbringing and my belief system, I can't hold other people accountable to what I believe and what I know.
Sure.
I want to, again, give them information and resources. I want to love on them and care about them and show them respect and dignity and help them make good decisions for themselves.
Sure. You mentioned a little moment ago about education. Do you educate the community?
Right,
I mean, do you go beyond your doors of your own facility? And do you go to schools? Do you go to churches? Do you go to organizations? Do you present? Do you have a message? Do you have a...
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I don't want to call it a canned speech.
No,
Because it's not that, I'm sure.
No,
But
it
is there a
isn't.
message for the community that you try to communicate?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So part of our mission is to present sexual integrity and healthy relationship education to the community. And we do that through our HOPE team. And HOPE for us stands for Healthy Options in Prevention Education.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So Sammy is our Hope Team coordinator. She's a young woman. She's just in college herself. And she has, let me think, Sexual Risk Avoidance Certificate. So she's gone through a program to be a specialist in sexual risk avoidance. And she goes out to schools, youth groups, continuation schools, also like some of the programs here in town that have people going through rehab, and they have small groups that she can go and work with them. And so we really want to teach sexual integrity and
is
what
there an
healthy
openness? Are people wanting that kind of education?
Absolutely.
Or do you have to kind of force yourself into it?
No, not at all. So we have a one-day overview that we can offer, and whether it's in the church schools or youth groups or whether it's in public sectors, a one-day type of overview. And then we have breakout seminars that can break down some of those pieces into 45-minute sessions. So usually if somebody asks us to come in for the one-day overview, then they're like, well, can you do something on sex trafficking?
They want
can
more,
you do
and-
something on fetal development? Can you do something on dating violence or whatever it is? So we have about 12 other lessons that are standalone.
I see.
But that one-day overview is just a quick recap of what healthy relationships, good communication, why abstaining from sex before marriage is a good idea, and it's all logical information and not at all judgmental or manipulative, and it's age appropriate.
But if you don't do this,
Who would?
who does?
Right, I agree.
I mean, is there anyone else out there educating the community?
I think that youth pastors are doing, they're
Maybe.
definitely in
Maybe.
on that. I think that there are a few other great organizations that speak into their organization on that, but I don't think there's anybody else that's willing to go
That's
outside
a very
of their
unique role you have.
Yeah.
I mean, not only for your own agency, but for our community.
Yes,
I mean, you are the voice to our community.
Yes, thank you. I
And
think
people
so.
are listening.
And they are listening.
People are listening. I mean, that's
and I think it's really interesting, like to be in it with a group of young people and present this information. And I know that this used to be my role at Pregnancy Care Center before I was executive director. I was a community health educator, and to watch lights go on in the junior high and high school kids and even college age kids, where they're like, oh, I'd never thought of it that way, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And to just again give them information and things to think about. And some kids will apply that information and others won't. But I think our responsibility is to offer it. So.
And you offer it every day, I assume. I mean, you're out in the community every day.
Pretty much.
In some format. And
well, it depends on the invitations we're getting.
Yeah.
So February during Valentine's season, we get a lot of requests in the month of February.
You said
And
you're a
so
medical
there's-
clinic. Do you ultrasound?
Yes.
Tell
we
us about that.
Offer ultrasounds. So our ultrasounds are usually done anywhere between 10 and 22 weeks. We can do them earlier than that if need be, and we can do them later than that. Sometimes we do, not necessarily intentionally, but our young women sometimes don't know how far along they are, and they'll be much further along.
Is that a
than we
desired
expected.
service? People want that? I mean, is that...
Yes, absolutely. We don't interfere. If a young woman has gotten established with an OBGYN,
Sure.
then we don't interfere with their...
Sure, they don't need to.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They're doing those services. But particularly our pregnancy test clients that aren't sure how far along they are and haven't been established with a doctor yet, those are the clients that we really want to get in for an ultrasound. And it's an early diagnostic ultrasound. We're looking for a heartbeat. We're looking for a baby in the womb. And we're looking to understand how far along she is in that pregnancy.
Yeah. So what's the reaction?
Oh, my goodness.
What's the common reaction when you do this ultrasound and this girl finds out she's pregnant? 15 years old.
I think the common reaction is awe. And I think also I had just that words, I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah. Now we do.
Yes.
Now we go from there, right?
Yes.
So an ultrasound, you find out that she's pregnant. 50 years old.
Oh, man.
What's the reaction?
I think shock. I think a lot of times for a 50-year-old, it would be shock. It would be, honestly, I think that women in their late 40s and early 50s, it really is a crisis again. Maybe they've already raised their family and they aren't expecting or desiring to start over with parenting.
Yeah.
And so that is a crisis like that of the really young girls. And sometimes, like any age, sometimes we're hoping to be pregnant.
Yeah.
But even when we're hoping to be pregnant, once we realize we are, it comes with a new set of responsibilities.
It starts the clock all over again, doesn't it?
Yes.
There's a population out there that had abortions.
Yes.
A gal had an abortion 20 years ago,
Yes.
30 years ago, and still lives with the guilt of it, the shame of it, the regret of it, maybe the joy of it, I don't know. But if they have a problem, to think it through and to work it through and to settle it in their own mind, can they come to you? Do you do that too?
Yeah, so you've touched on, all of our mission, really, because that is part of our mission too.
Is it?
Is to provide hope and healing for those that have been hurt by abortion. And that's a very important thing because we do recognize that women sometimes years and years later are still dealing with the aftermath of that. And so being able to step in and love on them and assure them that they are loved and that they can get past that is very important to Pregnancy Care Center.
Is that a high need? I mean, there are a lot of people out there that
Our post
kind of want to think about it later on and really now talk about it.
Yes.
It's been a secret.
Yes. So statistically in the United States, 1 in 3 women will be post-abortive by the age of 45. 1 in 3.
1 in 3.
And the side effects of that, the regret, the hurt that goes along with that to them, is a long-lasting thing. And they have triggers sometimes, triggers that are timed with the timing of the termination or timed with when that life may have come into the world. So there's several triggers within the year that can bring on more regret and hurt.
I find as a clinical psychologist that probably every week that question comes up, that issue comes up in my office with people I'm seeing. I don't see maybe for that reason.
Right.
Maybe there are other reasons, but in the course of our discussion, that comes up as a discussion. So it seems to me that there are psychologists out here that are able to help people think it through and help the healing process in the same way that you do.
Right.
But the physician does not. The physician spends, how much time with you? 5-7 minutes?
Right.
How can he or she get involved in the healing process in that time frame?
Well, I don't
How
know
do you
that
deal
you
with
can,
that?
I don't know that you can in 5 to 7 minutes.
I don't think you can either.
Right. But you know what, Dr. Hedberg, I am so thankful that as a clinical psychologist that you said that, because I think that even in that profession, there are psychologists that are overlooking the effects of abortion.
That's right.
And
That's right. It's done, over with, and done. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would really like to make an impact with the psychologists in our area just to help them understand that maybe you don't feel, that that's your strong suit because there's been a lot of research on that. But we have a program, a 12-week study that we can take the women through. That would never replace what a psychologist is doing or what.
No, it's a different.
Yeah, that would never replace.
Just different.
It would just be an added.
That's right. Some may want
resource.
one, and some may want the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the thinking it through, and it's the settling it.
Yes.
Just knowing that that's now history, but it's something you can now live with.
That's right.
And that's a hard thing to do.
It is. It is. Yes, it is, and we see that in many.
I'm glad you do
women.
that.
Thank you.
As a service, that's a huge service that's available and needs to be available. In our community. Let's take a break.
Okay.
You've done well, and
Thank you.
I want to ask Kristen when you come back about our community. The words that she has for our community out here. I mean, she's been serving our community. She knows our community. What's the word that you have for the young people in our school systems, in our community? You're an educator, public educator, so maybe you can give us a little bit of a public education lecture for a minute.
Sure.
We'll talk a little about that when we get back, okay? See you in a minute.
dentist who has a passion for superior aesthetics and comfort, you need Dr. Christopher Wong with Cedar North Dental. Call 559-432-4948 or visit cedarnorthdental.com.
Try to close the club. Tanya, come here.
At Boys and Girls Clubs, it's not just about trying new things.
Kitchen, my hometown.
It's not about learning the right steps.
4,
Or making contact.
5, 6, 7, 8.
It's not about exploring the future. It's about helping them build it. It's about taking steps to greatness. About making a connection. It's about proving every kid and teen has what it takes. It's about people in our clubs who bring out the greatness in every kid who enters our doors. It's not just about being on stage. It's about walking across it. Great futures start here, and here, and here.
Sat7 is a Christian media network that uses uncensored satellite television to broadcast across the Middle East and North Africa, and is also available globally online.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, welcome back, and I'm glad you're joining us in our conversation here with Christy Burkhardt of the Pregnancy Care Center here in Fresno. And we've been walking through just a lot of issues related to crisis pregnancy. But, Christy, I want to ask you a question about our community.
Okay.
You're in our community. You're a service to our community.
Yes.
You're here for our community.
Yes.
What's your word to our community? What is our community needing to hear? What's the community need out there? The families, the young people. What do you tell when you go out and speak to classes and go out and speak to churches and speak to different kind of clubs and so on? What do you tell them?
Well, I think if I could put it in one word, it would be hope. That there is hope. That there's hope for your family. There's hope for young people. That you each have such intrinsic value. So hope would maybe be that one word. But the message would be about that value that they each have. That you're special, that you were created specially, that you are unique to everybody else, and that value that you have means that how you live your life matters, that it really matters. And when you decide who you really want to be and what you want your life to look like, then hope can spring forth. I think that for a family to understand, like for parents to understand that there is hope for your kids. There's hope for them to make healthy decisions in relationships, and that you as parents are the driving force behind that. So what you teach your kids and the values that you instill in them is so valuable and so important. And to be present in their life, to be active and present, it's okay to have standards that are high for your kids. And then when they don't quite meet those standards, to love them and catch them and
Bring
call
them back
them
up
to
to
that
it.
standard
Bring
again.
them back up there. Keep
Yes,
it-
yes. But it's okay to have really high standards for your kids, and to talk to them about that, and to be their coach, and to be their support system. And that creates hope in your family.
I think there's sometimes almost a fear in parents' life that they don't want to set these high standards because you're afraid your child will fail. We don't
Right.
want to fail.
Right.
Or afraid that the child will reject you because you expect too much.
That's right.
You know, as mother or as father. And they see you as maybe being too demanding or, out of whack.
Right.
But yet, a high standard is really what is needed.
Agreed. And I think that one of the things that I feel sometimes is missing is that as parents, we've experienced a lot in our life and we've made some good decisions, but most of us, myself included, have made some pretty poor decisions in my young life. And a lot of people don't want to be honest with their kids about the decisions they made.
That's right.
And I want to speak into that when you're honest with your kids at the right age and with the right information, but when you're really honest with your kids, one, they can learn from your mistakes, and two, it closes that generation gap that we all talk about. It helps your kids know that, oh my goodness, my parents are real.
They've been through this themselves,
Yes,
basically.
they have information to offer. I think grandparents oftentimes are more open with their own mistakes than parents are. But I want to encourage parents to speak
So you really
honestly.
advocate kind of that parents kind of open their life a little bit and mistakes
Absolutely.
can be admitted.
Absolutely.
And kind of process. I guess admitting is not good enough. It's to process that, and to how that mistake happened.
Impacted.
And how I got over it, how I got through it.
Right.
And how I prevented it from happening again. That
Right.
seems to be the discussion that's needed.
Yes, I think that breaks generational cycles when we can really address them within our family unit. But, of course, communication is key, right? Communication
Absolutely.
is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
And communication really helps us value one another, too.
Where do parents and kids have those kind of discussions? Does that happen in the car as they drive? Is this
Yes, sir.
Is it bedtime talk? Is this
Yes.
dinner time talk?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's all of that.
Yes, I think it is all of that. And I'm speaking from experience, just raising our own 4 kids, knowing that that time in the car is valuable.
Yeah.
So you can turn up the radio and sing and laugh together, but sometimes you need to turn down the radio.
Turn it off, basically, and use it for talk time.
Yes, because there's less distractions in the car. Right now, there's more distractions than there ever used to be because our kids have cell phones and they're on their cell phones in the car. But I'm okay with telling my kids,
Yeah.
put that away for a while.
I have a colleague that drives her daughter to school.
I do
And
too.
it's about 20 minutes. And they've made a decision together. No radio, talk.
Right,
So they have actually decided to use that as talk time.
right.
So it's a 20-minute talk time. So they
Right.
think ahead of time what to talk about.
Right.
It's not a question, does the radio go on or off?
Right.
It's off.
Right.
They've already made that decision.
Right, and you mentioned dinner time. I think, studies show
Sure.
that a family that eats around the table together is better connected, and those kids grow up
That's right.
making better decisions.
And they learn how to talk. They learn how
Right.
to discuss. They learn how to reason. They learn how to
Right.
debate.
Right. And so cell phones in our home at dinner are off limits too. And by the way, that's not just for the kids, that's for Chris and I, because
Yeah.
cell phones, I depend on my cell phone and I can be caught up in that just as much as my kids can. And my son, my 14-year-old, will say, "Mom, stop being such a millennial." He'll tease me if I'm on my cell phone. So, it's as parents, we have to model that right behavior and we have to be really intentional. And it's easy to get caught up with work and chores and life and TV shows or whatever it
Sure.
is. It's really easy to get caught up with all of that stuff and miss our opportunities.
So what's the main message to high school kids today?
I would say,
What would you like them to know?
I would say that you are worth waiting for. That there's a lot of consequences that come with early sexual behavior. And it doesn't affect you just sexually. That early sexual behavior affects your reputation, so it affects you socially. It affects you intellectually, and it comes in the way, it gets in the way of your studies and of your goals that you're setting for yourself in your education. Because when we are engaged in early sexual activity, particularly when we're young, it grabs us, it distracts us. I mean, think about it. When a couple gets married and have this beautiful wedding, what's the next thing they do? They go on a honeymoon to where they can just be together and they can have that alone time where the world isn't a distraction. Well, when we add sexual activity into just our daily routine life as a 15-year-old, it should captivate us, but yet it shouldn't because we're only 15.
That's
right.
That's right.
So it affects us socially, it affects us sexually, it affects us intellectually, it affects us emotionally, and it affects us physically. And physically meaning that, STDs are on the rampage in Fresno County and across our nation, really.
Yes, they are.
And then there's an unexpected pregnancy that can occur. So there's lots of physical things that can happen if we're engaged in promiscuity or in early sexual activity. So I want young people to understand that that's a big decision. And while I'd like to tell you just wait till you're married, and I believe that that's the best place, at least think this through and don't fall into those behaviors. Plan those behaviors.
We as adults, when we talk to kids, we usually look at their future.
Right.
Kids don't look at future.
That's true.
Kids don't live in the future. They don't live in the next 4 years, 5 years, 20 years. They don't live that way.
Right, that's true.
It's not even on their mind. It's not a mindset whatsoever. They live for today and for tomorrow and for this week.
As did I when I was that age.
We do.
Yes.
So it's a different message. You can't kind of tell somebody what they do today is going to affect them on into the future. They're not interested in that.
Right.
So it's an immediate message.
Well, immediately is that test that you're about to take, the reputation that you have, and your health. Those really are some immediate risks of early sexual involvement. So it isn't even just what's that going to look like 5 or 10 years down the road. A pregnancy is today. If that happens today, and it's just an important thing to think about, and not something to fall into by accident.
Good. Hey, you did great. This is a wonderful discussion
Thank you.
We've just had, and this is a message for our community.
It is a message for our community.
Let me give you a parenting quote for the day, a parenting tip for the day, and maybe you can comment on this in just a minute before we end today. Here's the parenting tip, okay? Train up a child in the way that he should go, and then go there yourself. Tell us about that.
Yes, I think that we talked a little bit about parents being that role model with cell phones.
That's right.
But there are a lot of single parents, right? And parents that really don't want to find themselves pregnant again while they're already raising teenagers. So there's part of that quote. What if, as parents, we lived and demonstrated the sexual behaviors that we want for our children, our young people?
It's easy to tell kids what not to do.
Yes.
And then just not hear it ourselves.
Yes.
As parents. I think we have to rehearse it with ourselves first.
Yes.
And then discuss.
And, I recognize that these principles are that society doesn't necessarily lift up these principles. And I recognize that they're not always easy principles to live by.
No.
And that I haven't lived by all of these principles. I don't live by all of the principles that I believe in. There's little white lies that I have to remind myself not to tell. And there's eating habits that I believe in but don't follow. So maybe my area isn't sexual activity and crisis pregnancy now at this point in my life, but it was. And now I'm dealing with different things. So I recognize that they aren't easy principles to always live by, but they're principles that are worthy, and they're principles that are valuable, and they're principles that I want to encourage us to strive for.
Beautiful. Well said.
Thank you.
That's a good ending point. Thanks for joining us today. Let me just refer you to my book, Dr. Teach Me to Parent. And it's available on Amazon. You can buy it. You can get it on my website. booksbyhedberg.com. And in that book, there's a lot of good discussion about how you really raise and develop a young person in your life. And crisis pregnancy is discussed in here. We have some issues that need to be discussed. It's in the book. So pick up a copy of the book, Dr. Teach Me to Parent. Thanks for joining us today, and have a good week ahead of you. Bye for now.
When I set foot on the campus to come visit it, I was struck by how open and how welcoming the students and the professors were. Coming to Gordon was like coming home.
I think intentional community is what Jesus modeled with his disciples, and Gordon has really fostered a good place for intentional community to happen.
Gordon is a place where you can meet people from all over the world and hear their stories. I meet a lot of different people who are shaping who I am today.
Gordon seeks to graduate men and women of character, of leadership, and the world is the place where Gordon students belong.
Choosing to go to Gordon was, I think, one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I expect to be changed.
Pompe disease is a progressive, multisystemic, debilitation, and often fatal muscular disease. The United Pompe Foundation was formed to assist those affected by Pompe with the medical costs and other expenses that they may not be able to fully cover through their insurance. Visit UnitedPompe.com to learn more and to make a tax-deductible contribution to the United Pompe Foundation.
CentralValleyTalk.com